People better show up. That's always my worst nightmare, is I do a hangout and no one shows up. But I also don't think I have friends that would ever do that to me. And I think we'll always do a show, even if it's just me by myself. It's just a question of whether I'll keep it and publish it or toss it out. So I can't look at the chat room yet. I got two things I got to take care of first. So the Hangout's been started. I'm setting up shots. Hi. Sorry. Can't hear you. I'm just taking care of a last minute thing first before I become more perky here.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
For some reason, Google's Hangout seems to keep losing track of my settings to use this microphone.
Well, look in the lower left-hand corner.
Apps or people?
Apps and people. So we'll have to talk about that.
There are no apps. You is the only people.
I'm a programmer. That might be the hook I've been looking for.
That could be. I mean, I've saved my settings again, so we'll see if it sticks this time. Oh, that was fun. All right.
Boy, at the last minute, lots of stuff showed up.
Good.
This was a busy day in the news.
I've been deeply buried inside of writing a workflow book. And for some reason, one of my dogs has decided that he wants to be no more than 6 inches away from me all day long.
Yeah. I need a workflow book for the show. Right now, all I do is I run off a checklist. I'm moving everything to Google Docs so everybody can just read stuff. And I need some suggestions. We might do a hangout later in the week to talk about this show.
I would say that's a good idea because I think we kind of are doing it like at the last minute. And
yeah, well, unfortunately, it's because of work right now is hectic, and it's going to be that way for me until Wednesday.
Understandable.
But I would like to use like Plancast.
I'm not familiar with that, but I saw you mentioned it.
Yeah, or I think that might serve a little bit better than Google Calendars. I want to just schedule everybody out, and then they have the responsibility if they remove themselves finding a replacement or something like that kind of thing. And that way we'll book it 2 shows out, so it'll never be a surprise and never be hectic anymore.
That'd be good.
That's what I want to do, and I appreciate everybody's patience with me. I take some solace, and it seems to be getting better.
It is, and plus, I'm always surprised. I mean, I woke up in the middle of the night. I come in here at like 1:32 in the morning, and I see you're on a hangout with Trey, and I'm thinking, doesn't he have to work in the morning?
Yeah, I'm the kind of person that I tend to do. Lately, Disney sort of has done this to me.
Yeah.
I've become real-time interactive, which means I do plan things out. But I tend not to look when I get really, really busy, and that happens a lot down here. I don't look forward. I don't look forward more than 24 or 48 hours, and I react to what's ever in front of me at the time. So Trey's hangouts are always a lot of fun, and I enjoy them. I haven't seen them in a long time, so the energy of the thing carries you. And then as soon as it's over with, you collapse.
I saw, and I saw a couple of his where I was on the invitation list, and people were just starting to sign in. I thought I could join that. Then I realized, no, I'm in the middle of something here, and I've got to do this, so I missed out on both of them. I haven't joined one of his hangouts in quite a while, so.
Well, I recorded the second one.
And that's good, but you know how it is. It's different watching than it is participating.
Okay. Now, I have to get my laptop to join the Hangout here now.
We'll go ahead and take care of that. I've got to run off for a moment, and I'll be right back.
There better be more people showing up. I'm going to re-invite the circle again. I can tell people are typing in the chat room, but I can't look at the chat room right now. Oh, great. The Hangout didn't start. Let's try that again. Let's try it with Chrome instead of Safari. I just realized I should have accepted my own invite before I invited other people, because I could lose my position here. Work. This reminds me so much of watching Netflix. It's stalled. I don't think it's going to work. Refresh. Okay. Reinstall plugin. It wants me to reinstall the plugin.
Will that take you off?
No.
Okay.
It might delay the show. Let me see. Applications. Screw this. Let's close this. I need more memory on this laptop. That's part of the problem.
I'm maxed out on mine. It only takes 8 gigs, and there are never more.
This is an older one. Open a terminal. Oh, why didn't it just tell me to do that? Shoot. Open a terminal. Cut and paste this command into it. No offense, Google, but you could just you could just make this a clickable link, and it would do all that. If I know how to do it, I know you know how to do it.
I expected to see other guests by now.
Yeah, I'm going to re-invite the circle again. I was thinking we'll still do a show, even if it's just me. Just that we'll just decide whether we want to keep it or not. That's all.
All right.
I figured that's going to be my new approach. All right. That was invite number 2. And my pocket just vibrated, so I know it went out. Trouble is, I wanted to reserve a slot. Mr. Betteridge, thank you for coming.
No, I don't see myself yet.
Neither do I. You're kind of fuzzy. There you are.
Close all your browsers. And then, oh, shoot. I got to do a browser recovery here.
You're just not having a good night. But you look very clear. Is this your new camera?
Yeah, it's a little on the red side because the white balance doesn't know how to adjust, right? You don't.
Yeah, your face is red, but you can definitely tell more clarity than from the previous camera.
Yeah. Man, this better work. I'm going to do a force quit in my browser and then reopen last session. It better remember everything.
I mean, I don't even see myself here.
Well, we do, although you're very dark. You need some lighting. You don't really need to see me.
He's backlit, that's why.
As long as we do. But yeah, you need to change your lighting.
That lamp behind you is really what's causing your problem, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's
throw a shirt over it.
Oh, much better.
Oh, much better. We're
Service
going to make it a
has been
requirement from
lost.
now on. Everybody has to bring a geek toy to a thing. You got to show off a geek toy. All right, let's see if I can join the
Geek
Hangout.
toy.
I got my Tron T-shirt on, so I figure I'll put my little Tron cycle out.
I don't have a Tron cycle. I don't have a Tron T-shirt.
Install plugin.
I tried to watch Tron, but I just couldn't stomach it.
The original, or the new one?
The original. I didn't bother with the second one.
Oh no. Well, if you never saw the original, you won't like it now that the new one is out.
Okay.
You have to remember it was groundbreaking at the time, and if you did see
I remember everybody talking about how groundbreaking it was, but the story just didn't catch
well, the story on the new one sucks too. There's a better story than the one they did. There's a prequel that's done in the graphic novel series that's much better.
When did they start calling comic books graphic novels?
When it's a collection. That was the explanation I heard.
Okay. They're still comic books to me.
Rick is coming back in. He's trying to give it another shot. Now it's worse, Rick. You should never have done that. Oh, it's not Rick. You were frozen. I couldn't even tell it wasn't Rick. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Keith, how's it going?
Okay, how you doing?
Good.
Thank you for joining. You know, this is not working. Almost done, almost done. How long is it going to say almost done? Just sitting there. Screw it. I'm going to join the Hangout and see what happens. That says install plugin. All right, I'll click it again. Oh, it was my fault. I think we're going to be 5 or 10 minutes late with the show, unfortunately.
That's all right.
And I'm going to invite the second wave because nobody's showing up. Adel said he's going to join us a little after 9, so I know he's going to come. Okay.
There we go. I had to switch to Firefox. Google's own browser doesn't work with Plus.
Yeah, a lot of people use Firefox with the Hangouts.
I'm a Safari guy.
I was
Firefox.
about to go to that next.
I found that it can vary. It doesn't matter. There's no rhyme or reason why one works better than the other. Just grab one that works. They've been changing Hangouts so much in the last 2 to 3 weeks. They have been both extremely buggy and extremely exciting simultaneously. So. And we'll talk about that.
Hi, Tim. I haven't met you yet. I'm Rick.
Nice to meet you. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So where are you based out of?
I am just north of Daytona Beach.
Oh, we're not too far off then.
So since you're familiar with the area, Ormond Beach?
Yep, I'm in Sanford.
Okay.
Williams and Trayvon country.
I could walk there in 5 minutes. I mean, literally, I don't live in the condo, but I do live in the neighborhood. If you see me typing away, it's because I'm having an argument on that topic with an expatriate.
I'm rebooting the laptop. Sorry, Hangout, everybody. This is worth a reboot to me.
Oh my.
Uh-oh.
As soon as the beach ball goes away.
I never thought I'd say that Firefox was actually better on my CPU than Chrome.
Okay, so while that's doing, I will finish my video shots here.
We're doing shots?
Please.
And first, earlier today, I see that Gilmar is drinking her way around the world, and Epcot didn't invite me.
I didn't even know.
See, she didn't invite you either.
Not that I could go anyway.
I only found out about 10 minutes to 6, and I thought there's no way I'm going to tackle I-4 going down there at that time.
All right. First shot would be for me. I don't think it should say Trey Radcliffe Hangout, do you?
Probably not.
After our last hangout, I had to go and get drawn
Hey.
something.
Is it Ado or Edo? I keep forgetting.
Like Plato, the philosopher, Ado.
Ado. So it's Ado.
Yep.
Okay. I'm rebooting my laptop, so we're going to be running a little bit. I'm having tons of Hangout issues here.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then I noticed there's a little people and apps button down there that wasn't there yesterday.
Oh, it's rolled out to you. You're one of the lucky few. It's migrating to all of the world right now. Not everybody has it.
Do you know enough to talk about it? Since it's here, it's obviously going to be visible.
Well, it's public. We put a big post on it.
I haven't seen it.
Neither have I. I just...
All right. Well, so yeah, we basically it's
Let's do it in
a.
the show. Let's tap you in the show for it. You don't mind?
Oh, I'm not. Oh gosh, I'm not an official spokesman for Google Plus. I'm going to just post a link, but it's a really radical change in that we have a developers framework for integrating applications into it.
And can I do things like change the background and do split screens and all sorts of other stuff that I want to do?
Well, here, let me save you some trouble and set.
I do want to talk about it in the show.
Add the link to chat. Well, here, this will give you all the context. You can.
Well, unfortunately, I can't use that chat. But.
Oh, okay. Well, we can now we can play poker while we talk. That's one of the demonstration applications.
That's not what I'm getting. I wouldn't get excited about that.
Well, I mean, the point of it. The point of it is that it creates a virtual card deck which all the participants in a particular hangout can use, and therefore can play poker or whatever you want to do. Nice, cute proof of concept thing, but I'm sure.
Oh, an API into the Hangouts is awesome. I've been dying to have that.
Yeah, so the 6 applications that are available are Aces Hangout for playing poker with friends face-to-face, Clubhouse Challenge by Bravo, as in Bravo, the television thing, cable, Kaggle for wireframing, mind mapping, and diagramming with others, Google Effects, and we all know Google Effects. That's the thing you've always had with the dogs and what now, but it's a little more fancy. I can show you right now. Let's see, I'll put on a top hat and...
You're not waiting for the show. Let's do it in the
show. I'm rehearsing.
But we're live, so your rehearsal is going out, too.
Okay.
So yeah, and we'll, you can run that whole thing. Just hold off about 10 minutes.
I haven't prepared a spiel for this.
You don't need to. This is very relaxed. This show wasn't as planned as I was hoping. Work got in my way.
We'll make our way through.
And if I can't get the technology to behave, there we go. I'm in the chat room now. There's a chat room on vidcastnetwork.com if you want to monitor
Oh,
it.
good. I got a flash update.
Well, you can monitor from the Google Plus too, right?
The comments?
We're on live now, yeah.
I can't, but maybe you guys can.
Sure, yeah. Anybody else that's viewing us that has permission, they can just click on a play, and it looks like a YouTube video, except that it is live.
Actually, I'm gonna hit play, broadcast now, so we can get people starting to get interested.
There's the chat. Thank you very much, computer, for finally deciding to work.
Because we're gonna start within 5 minutes. So I'm gonna give this one last try. My laptop is back up. I'd rather be 5 minutes late than abort it, which is what we had to do 2 weeks ago. A different show. Ooh, it's saying it's working. And it lost me, so I'm going to give up on this.
I have one key Barrett window that's black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's supposed to be my desktop. But instead it's a Google bar, a progress bar that's gone 3/4 of the way through and sitting there. It died. So I'm not going to be able to share my desktop in this Hangout. So.
I don't have a little video window for IDO.
What?
Right.
No. It's just a blank space for you.
Well, what you can do is you can click on Keith's window and then look behind his head, and then you can see me from there.
There you go.
Hang on, I've got to go intrigue the dog with something so he stops barking.
Rawhide.
Right. So that's abandoned. It's sad, but it's abandoned. Okay. So as soon as he comes back, we'll start.
Okay.
Just to give an advance warning, I've picked a rather dodgy place to conduct this meeting. I'm not in a formal room. I'm literally in the executive bullpen right now. So if in the unlikely event executives do happen to come around and start chatting, I'm going to have to board. I don't think it'll happen at 6 p.m. Pacific time. But
Well, if Sergi comes around, just invite him to.
oh yeah. I'm sure that'll be his first instinct when speaking with a random
Group of people.
Yeah.
Well, my plan is in a future show, I want to spend time with you, Edo, and talk about your job and everything and what you do.
Oh.
I was hoping to do that for your very first appearance, but as you saw, I was having difficulties.
Here, this is my current profile photo. The Trayvon Martin thing.
William's in Sanford, not far from where that happened.
That hits a little close to home for me. I have helicopters flying over my house all the time still.
Oh.
And
I took a picture with my Galaxy Nexus cell phone with me with the hood over it, and it's the first time my mother ever responded to me on Google Plus. She's on the family circle, but it's kind of just going through the motions, and she's like, "You look like a cross between Darth Maul and Unabomber. But I was very impressed she got the Darth Maul reference. Unabomber's a little more her speed, but Episode 1 of Star Wars, she must be hanging around the grandkids a lot. So.
You think about it. That's why Darth Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi both got it, man. They were wearing hoods.
Oh, the layers of pun on that. Well done, sir. Well done.
You're asking for it, man.
All right, so let's start this off.
Okay.
Okay, I'm a panelist. That
Yeah.
means I don't speak.
Oh, and let me see. We have I want to get the panelist name down because I saw introductions. Ado, Rick, Tim, and William. Okay.
For William or Bill?
Either one. I've answered the worst.
Or Will. Yeah.
So this is Tech Plus, Episode 4 for Wednesday, March 28th, 2012. Hi, this is Keith Barrett of the Vidcast Network, and welcome to the 4th episode of Tech Plus. We have a good panel here today, and we'll start off with introductions. First off is Ido.
Hello, I'm Edo Inoue. I actually live in Japan and I work for Google Japan. Presently, I'm speaking to you from headquarters in Mountain View. And I do engineering work at Google, primarily in social.
Edo's our Googler today. And next up we have Rick Betteridge.
Hi, I'm Rick Betteridge. I'm a project manager in IT at Walt Disney World.
And next up after that we have Tim Weston.
Hi, I'm Tim Weston. I'm a systems analyst at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida.
And last but not least, we have photographer William Beam.
Thank you. How you doing? I'm, as you mentioned, I'm a photographer in the Central Florida area. I've spent a career in information technology, and now it's just fun to kind of see how both of them play off the other.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to bring up, because it was the first thing I noticed when I started this particular Hangout, is there's a little people and apps buttons in the corner of the screen. So that wasn't there yesterday. And that coupled with the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of problems with Hangouts. We had a huge echoing problem about 3 weeks ago, and then we've had reliability problems where people get kicked out. So it's been obvious that Google's been making lots of changes very rapidly to Hangouts. So, Ado, can you tell us about the people in the apps widget in the corner there?
Yeah, sure. It's a publicly released thing, and it just came out today. You'll probably see some blog posts about it. But basically, when you start the Hangout now, you'll notice a new apps button at the top of your screen, and then once you're inside that, you'll see both featured and recent Hangout apps. And the apps we have, for example, now are like Aces Hangout, that's for playing poke with your friends, something by the Bravo channel, a wireframing app. You're probably aware of this before, but there used to be that effects thing where you clicked on it, and then the holiday it changed you to a reindeer, but now it like changes to a dog or a cat or a halo or things. But that's been taken.
I'm a big fan of this hat.
Oh yeah,
Big fan.
So yeah,
or pirate.
So it now has a name called Google Effects, and it takes it to the next level where you can change your headwear, eyewear, facial hair. And then, like, if you are like me and you have your children in a separate continent or country and all that, you get on with the chat and you can do drawing and coloring. And then there's also for the business type people that, oh yeah, Hangouts is only for straight business and all that. You can co-view presentations, docs, and videos, which you used to be able to do before anyway. Anyway, it's released today, and if you don't have it in your Hangouts now, it'll probably be there real soon.
It's not just on-air Hangouts, right?
No, it's for everything. Yeah.
And is it going to give you? Is it going to give developers how much access to an API into Hangouts is it going to give developers?
So I haven't looked at the developer API myself, but there actually is a link for it on the developer blog for Google+. But the nice thing about it is that, like, if you have your own cool app and you're a developer and you want to share it with somebody else in your Hangout, it's just like it is with Hangouts now. If you want to invite somebody, you can just take a URL, copy and paste it into the chat and say, hey, click on this and you're in. the apps is just as simple, where you can have a URL for your app, and you can just send it to somebody and say, hey, just click on this, and this way you can use my app.
Cool. And I know that's not your area within Google, but
No.
it was very aptly timed that I had a Googler in here simultaneously when we saw that for the very first time.
Oh, well,
Because I hadn't read the post.
It's a lot of fun. I've been playing with the Google Effects myself internally for quite a while, and I enjoy the effects myself. Frankly, I think I look good with the facial hair, but my wife would probably disagree.
So before we go on, why don't we? Can you give us a quick overview of what you do at Google?
Oh boy. Okay, so I've been there for 4 years. Keith knows me actually because prior to Google, I used to work at Red Hat, and we had a brief stint at Red Hat together. And my first three years at Google, I did mobile, primarily Japanese mobile. And mobile in Japan used to mean prior to iPhone and Android, there was Japanese phones were the best when it came to browsers and functionality at the moment. We just made sure that all the Google properties, from everything from search to more advanced stuff like Gmail, worked properly on cell phones. It wasn't too far long ago then that was not very common, and mobile was not very big, and so it was a very minor group. After that, I did a little journeyman version voyage through Labs, and as you know, Labs is no more, and now my current job is in social, and I primarily focus on Blogger, but more and more I work on Google Plus features in Blogger, which seems to be gradually going towards Google Plus in terms of my responsibilities.
Cool. I'm hoping that we'll have some time in a future episode where we can delve much more into some of the things that you've seen and some of the things that you can talk about that are upcoming. But thank you very much for coming, because it was pretty last minute that you were able to join us.
Yeah, no problem. It really works out for me time zone-wise, but you're lucky you caught me in a different country.
What time in Japan would it be right now if you were over there?
Oh, gosh. I try not to pay attention to that because that'll just kind of give me jet lag in the mind. But, yeah, it says 3 hours till 12, so 9 p.m.
Oh, okay. That's not... Well, it's 9 p.m. here.
No. Oops. No, sorry. I'm completely reverse. Morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I try not to think about it.
So we had there was a lot of news going on today. We talked about the glue. Actually, still on the topic of Google. Google came out with the play button this week too. What do you guys think of the play button?
It's new.
Yeah, it's new. On the toolbar, it's new, and it's flagged as new, so you can't tell it's not new.
Well, one of the things that you and I were, sharing some messages back and forth was it would be nice if we could customize what's up there, because there are things up there that I don't need or use, but something like Reader I would really like to have easily accessible up there.
Yeah, I mean that was my observation. There's two things about the Google toolbar that make me unhappy. The first is quite often when I click things, it creates pop-ups or tabs rather than just switching the browser window, and it's not consistent when it does that. And the other thing is there's some functions like I wish I could click contacts, because I'm going to my contact list all the time now between Google Plus and other things. So it takes multiple clicks to get to your contacts right now.
Well, if you're in Gmail, you can click the Gmail icon and switch between tasks, contacts, and mail.
Yeah, which screws me up because I used to right-click my contacts and have it open another window, and I can't right-click anymore because it's not a link anymore. So the point was that the play button is there, and there's a YouTube button, and a couple other things, but there's actually some pretty useful things that we all use on a regular basis that we really wish were in that toolbar.
Yeah. It's actually, because that thing is on everything, we're actually very, very, very sensitive and careful about what goes in there and how it looks. As you probably have noticed, it's changed many times, especially quite recently.
Mm.
So it's not an easy problem to solve everybody's wishes.
That's actually something else that I'm wondering how Google works this way. I don't know if you can share it or not, but changes seem to happen very quickly. So, it's like for someone like me that's worked in defense industry and other corporations like that, change is very slow because you have to go through so many layers. It seems like you're able to almost have an idea and roll it out very quickly. Is it streamlined, or how are you able to make changes so quickly?
Wow, I guess that must be an optical illusion from an outsider looking in, because
Probably so.
my opinion is internally is that we don't move fast enough, and there's other people that share our opinion too that we'd like to be even faster.
I'm going to guess it's team specific too. That some teams are different.
Yeah. That being said, I have heard that open source has a mantra: release early, release often, and there's a lot of open source people in Google too. And in order for a very, very, very big company like Google to be able to compete with very innovative startups, there is a belief that you kind of need to think like a startup in terms of how you roll out features and innovation.
And it seems to show, just like Keith was mentioning with the Hangouts, for example. We've seen a lot of changes, a lot of features rolling in. And I can understand from your point of view, it's like you may have been working on those for a very long time, but it seems like we're seeing things change maybe back and forth a little bit rather quickly from an end user perspective. So if nothing else, it gives you the appearance of rapid development.
Yeah. The social area that I work in is definitely moving very, very rapidly. If you follow the blog for that, I think we've said publicly that we release a feature a day on average so far since for Google Plus. I mean, it's the first group within the company I've worked at that it's just moved at such an incredible velocity. We have all these internal spreadsheets and internal tools that show when launches are coming out. And it's really, really freakish to see something new every single day. Even internally, I'm impressed with that.
Yeah, because the project planners I used to work with would really be freaking out at the pace that you're seeing.
Well, but it's not just Google. That I've adopted some of that philosophy too. That startups do a lot of things. I mean, the internet is huge, and you can't invest, for example, in an architecture within your environment or even in a private cloud that could scale as high as the internet. So at some point, as you're doing changes and you test, and your production becomes almost your test ground, because it's the only thing that has the volume and the size to really make sure that your change is actually working. And if you can rapidly roll it back or fix it instantly, you're rolling stuff quicker and quicker to production. There's also a process called Agile, where the rule in Agile is you do something once a week. You roll out always something the same day every single week. I don't know if Google follows that. But
We do Agile development methods on a group by group. It's not a company-wide methodology, but obviously software engineers know it, and most people prefer to use it, so they do it where they can.
Well, I love the fact that stuff is going on in Hangouts, and there's some things that I've been asking for a long time, and I hope that they're coming. I know they're aware of them. So some of them are simple, like, gee, it'd be nice if it had a black background instead of a white background, so I can be able to set the color. And others are a little bit more complicated, but.
Now, I noticed that I don't have the play button in the navigation. I'm a Google Apps user, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know if that's rolled in?
It's just coming to you.
Oh, okay.
Our infrastructure and our data center setup is so big with, I can't say how many machines, that it takes some time to get to everybody.
Okay.
Be patient.
So let's talk about something else that was in the news. I got an email from paper.li. I don't know if you recognize that or not.
Oh, yeah.
That's the service that allows every person to create a private newspaper and publish it as if they're a publisher. So it's responsible for half the traffic in my Twitter feed, because everybody believes they have to have a newspaper now. And they always say, hey, you're in this, and you go searching for it, and you can't find yourself. You don't know what the heck they referenced. But it was down for 3 days. And they sent a huge apology letter to everybody saying we're sorry it was down. And, does anybody here use it?
So I'm very embarrassed, but since I don't use it, obviously, so it's going to be a naive question. How's that different from a blog, what they do?
They take content from other sites and put it in a newspaper.
Yeah, it's an aggregator that formats it like a magazine or newspaper, just by clicking or adding stuff. It's fast deployment, and It's designed to quickly make a newsletter for yourself, but people are using it to create their own daily newspapers of the things that interest them and sharing them.
The thing that gets me
Go to
about
the website and I'll describe it. Okay, go ahead.
it makes me wonder why Pinterest had such a backlash on copyright issues with them, but Paper.ly never did. I mean, all they're doing is they're taking content from people who have not authorized anything and presenting it again.
Well, but the thing is, in Paper.ly, I'm not a heavy user of it, so I'm not going to. I don't know all of its features and capabilities, but it strikes me in general that one person is responsible for the particular, newspaper that you're creating because it's your account, your stuff that you're flagging. Whereas the Pinterest is a free for all. At least it was until recently. We'll talk about that.
Okay, because I think that to me it was more objectionable if somebody would take my content without asking me and broadcast it on their newsletter without versus the Pinterest board didn't bother me so much. To me, that was a way for me to share my things, but I had no control at all over somebody taking my information and content and putting it in whatever form they wanted.
So nobody here is using Paper.ly for making their own newspaper, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay, no. But you all have seen it over and over.
I've never even heard of it until just now, so call me a silly person.
I get almost daily. I get a Twitter saying, Keith Barrett, you've been included in this newspaper, and I like to go. And you go click it, and you go look at the newspaper, and you're going, and it's because it's capturing like tweets and a Facebook photo published and things like that. It doesn't have any connectivity into Google Plus because there's no API to get most of that stuff. But you can't, because it's so automatic, you can't find the thing that referenced you. And 9 times out of 10, the thing that referenced you was you repeating or retweeting something else that somebody else shared, so you're not even the source of the information.
I've noticed that many times. I'm not a user of it, but you get mentioned in a tweet and says, hey, articles including something by Tim Weston, and I go look for it, and I'm like, all I did was retweet, Joe Smith's tweet, and he wasn't even the author of the article. So it's kind of interesting that to actually find the source of the information in the Paper.ly newspapers is very difficult.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, some stuff gets formatted nicely. It's usually huge articles that somebody took the time to put it in there. The stuff that's like auto captured or flagged, especially the tweets, I don't think they had any value at all.
No, I'm not.
And what it grabs out of somebody's grabbing my vidcast posts, the videos I put up. The problem is the explanation it grabs has nothing in it. So it's just me and a link, and it's my byline on Vidcast Network, live events and things like that. You have no idea why it's there. So, but the service is pretty cool. But I had no idea it was even down. I would have enjoyed it more because I would have enjoyed the absence of all those references to me that I never could figure out. So, okay. So another story is this. We'll swing back to a little bit of Google here. Apple's going to include, was it Baidu? Is that how you say it?
Baidu.
Baidu in search engine, which is a spider that constantly crawls my site. I see it all the time. I don't know if that's a hard fact. That's a strong rumor. But it would make sense that they would do that.
I mean, I haven't read the news on this. Do you mean like Baidu's going to be one of their search engine options within the mobile browser?
I'll find it.
In China, they're saying that they're going to put Baidu in. You know how it has the Google search box on the iPhone currently or on an iOS device? They're going to have it be the Baidu search engine. I think that's a bow to the government there for the iPhone.
Yeah, so you can have an iPhone in China and actually have that search engine as a supported search engine option. I think that's the goal there.
Well, the iPhone right now, you can, if you don't want your default choice for your search engine, you can change it to another search engine. It just, I think right now it defaults to Google. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe you're correct, yeah.
The article, which is on the Next Web, says that this is being done in Apple's push to move away from dependency with Google. Apple has an interest in products in China. CEO Tim Cook continuously states the importance of marketing for Apple in China. I mean, it's something I certainly Google would never do that because Google, they have their own search product, and China has its own challenges. But it made sense for Apple to do it. I think I just thought it was a very interesting thing to do because on the one hand, there's all this controversy, and Google took a position on it with internet freedom in China and problems over there. On the other hand, this is a way of making the iPhone more popular, more marketable, and more localized for that market.
Right.
And it's something that Google won't do, So, do you think this is a good thing for them?
So the open source guy, and speaking from that perspective, I'm not going to speak from the marketing perspective or the business strategy perspective. Obviously,
Right.
you want all companies want them to be the default search provider. But if you're an OSS guy, as far as I'm concerned, as long as there's a way for the average user to be able to choose their search engine in the phone they use, that's fine by me. If they don't want to use one search engine, want to switch to another, I think that a cell phone should be allowed to do that. I think if it locks you to one search engine, the open source guy has a bit of a problem with that. So that's all I'll really say on that. So if I recall, I believe the iPhone allows you to choose which search provider you want to use, and if you don't like your default, you can switch to another, and that's cool. And as long as what they're doing in Apple, I'm not going to comment from the marketing and business perspective, but as long as the Chinese users have a choice of their search engine provider, I don't have a problem with it personally.
They have, it's almost 84% of the China search engine space. Of course, that's because most of this is government imposed, though.
Yes, exactly.
So, it doesn't seem to have, except for the political unpopularity of doing it, it doesn't seem to really have a downside for them making that decision. Joel, is that the way the article is written, it's not something that they're saying is going to be happening. It's just like a strong rumor or there's strong speculation. So it's interesting that this article came out with all this detailed descriptions of why this is a good idea, et cetera, and the quote from Tim about how important the China market is, but nothing directly says or points to this is why we're saying that they're going to do this.
Right.
So. And then William brought up Pinterest.
I did.
And Pinterest is getting press that you could never buy because they have been in the news literally almost every day for the past week for a new point in this in their ongoing situation with privacy. And they sent a letter out a couple days ago, and I know Trey Radcliffe had a whole twit episode with of talking about this. They changed the terms of service in their privacy statements because they used to say things like, anything you post we might resell and things like that. And they backtracked on all of it. And as far as I know, there's really nothing controversial that people are going to be up in arms about right now. Has anybody looked at that?
I've looked at it, but I think Trey was right that when he said that legitimate companies aren't looking to take your intellectual property and resell it. What they might have said is if they might have done it in a mass, like if they did a video board or something like that, or a collection of pictures, might have sold something where your picture was included in it, but not necessarily selling your picture. I think it was a matter of the lawyers covering every aspect of what they had to do, which most companies do if you submit user-generated content. And people took it to the extreme, saying they could do this, even if they never, ever had any intention of selling your photo as a print or something like that.
No,
but their terms of service actually said some pretty ugly stuff like that, though.
It did. And that's one of the things where I think I blame it on the lawyers, and I also blame the marketers for not looking at what the lawyers wrote and saying, no, people are going to come back and yell at us like this, which they did.
Now, do you think this is because there's a couple ways to look at this, and it's very difficult as an outsider to know. Do you think this was a situation where they wrote it that way because it's what they wanted to have as far as all the rights is concerned, and then it bit them and they rolled back? Do you think it was ignorance and that a startup, doesn't especially young people doing this in the marketplace, don't have the experience with regulation, with privacy, with other things, so they just did a bad job of it, or they didn't care and they realized they should have? What do you think started the ball rolling?
I think the lawyers were overzealous.
You can only guess, but my guess is them being small is that they used templated legal language because that's cheap rather than the custom legal language, which is more internet appropriate. And then they found out the hard way.
Because, Path had the same problem. Path had some bad terms in their terms of service and agreement, and they had to go change them, too. It was a bad PR day for them, too. It was, and they were downloading the contact lists to their servers and holding onto the data, too. And they got caught doing that. But again, it looked like they just didn't pay attention. I mean, they downloaded the data because they needed to, and they didn't realize it was they were either lazy or they didn't realize it was a bad thing to hold on to it, and they just kept it there, and then somebody caught it, and then they got rid of it. So I wonder often how much of this is just, I say, ignorant mistakes, because startups, are all new. They don't have a lot of experience in a lot of these areas.
You know the old saying, never assume malice where simple incompetence will suffice.
Yeah, well, both companies, Path corrected their problem very quickly.
Yes.
Pinterest took quite a while, but when they did the correction, it was very visible and very, very well done. I mean, the agreements were changed and took out most of the stuff everybody was complaining about, if not all of it.
Is this correction retroactive? It applies to all content generated up to and before under the not-so-great contract?
That's a good question.
It is a good question because
I'm looking for the email.
It doesn't even take place until April. But that's a good question. I didn't see language, or at least it didn't stick with me specifically that it was retroactive.
Yeah, unfortunately, just before the show, my laptop had to be rebooted, and I had the letter open so I could read it, and now I can't get to it because they actually said in the email what the terms that they actually changed, and one of the things that they got rid of totally was the fact that they could resell your stuff, and they're going to have a much lower tolerance for they're not going to have any tolerance for posting stuff that has an emotional, detrimental, or racial or derogatory reference to the people that offends people. And I thought that was an interesting position to take, and they must have had a problem in order to state some of that.
They probably figured out they needed to get into Germany.
Oh, is it really?
Well,
that could be that.
Well, not all countries in the world, have the same concept of freedom of speech that the United States or like even Japan does, and in some countries, freedom of speech is not defined as freedom of speech, except for hate speech, and often specifically Nazi stuff is completely taboo and whatnot. So, the U.S. Freedom of speech legalese often doesn't work overseas sometimes.
Speaking of freedom of speech and some other things, everybody see the article about the employer demanding Facebook and email passwords?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not just a single case. It actually went
apparently
became a general bill to protect people's Facebook privacy, and it got shot down.
Well, I'm curious to see how this is going to hold up legally, given the privacy laws that we have. So many other things going on. I mean, Google just went through a whole bunch of flack for consolidating down everything under a single profile and privacy law, and you see other things going on around privacy law, and now all of a sudden some employer is saying, "Oh yes, I can have whatever I want from you."
They can ask, but I'm not going to give it to them.
Yeah, but they could also fire. The law was to protect people from getting demanded or fired over it, and of course that's the other thing. There's no explicit protection against doing that, so anybody can try anything once, then it goes to court. So the person, meantime, lost his job anyway.
I look at it this way. Since I'm here in Florida, it's an at-will state. They don't need a reason to fire me. If they want to fire me, they can.
Yeah, I mean, I have the article right in front of me. It says that Democrats offered legislation as part of a bill to slap restrictions on FCC rules after a string of reports about employers insisting on access to social media accounts from employees, a practice that some senators already wanted investigated by the Justice Department. Employees have an expectation that their right to free speech and free religion will be respected when they use social media outlets. If an employer wants to pose as you or impersonate the individual who happen to have turned over their confidential information and password to the employer, that's going to present problems. So it's interesting. It's this kind of thing I look at and go, well, this is common sense. Why is this going on? But then again, I've worked for so many employers and I've seen so many different things that there are employers that just try to get away whenever they want to get away. But
True.
It's not necessarily at the entry level of the company. Sometimes it's at the executive level too, because of the amount of money and PR that can be associated with some things. A superstar athlete can say the wrong thing, and this has happened. And
look at Spike Lee today.
Yeah. Yeah. So they may, to control that is always a desire on their part.
Let's look at analogies between stuff prior to this that have existed physically in a real world. I mean, I don't think there's any employer out there that would say, you know what, we want to do a background check on you. Give us the problem is that a lot of the dirt about you is inside your house, and we can't get inside your house. Could you please give us your house key so we can go look around for any alcohol or illicit drugs or anything like that and all that? I don't think that really exists. But, a lot of us have probably been with an employer where we've agreed to a background check where, for example, they've looked up our credit score. I've been with a few employers that have done that and whatnot. And when I worked on Wall Street, and even when I worked as a substitute teacher, and this was 20 years ago, I was fingerprinted, and they ran the fingerprints through all the standard databases and whatnot. And credit check is pretty standard. And if you work in the intelligence in the United States, you have to do polygraph, and depending on the type of the polygraph, they will ask questions about that are normally answered only in your private world inside your Facebook, that it's not, publicized to the rest of the world. I think there needs to be a boundary that can't be crossed under coercion for the purposes of employment.
I agree. That's why I'm now going with my new incognito presence.
Notice there's a line. It's like this time last year I was going through my investigation to get a secret clearance with the Department of Defense. OMP comes in, they do the investigation, they have access to various records, they interview people who know me, but never once did they say, would you please give me your PIN for your ATM or the keys to your house or something of that nature. So if they can do that to determine my clearance, I don't see why an employer needs to look at my Facebook account. And as someone who's working in IT and security, my first response would be to them, it's like, the thing that we tell everybody is you never share your password. So that's what I'm going to tell you. This could be a test to see if I'm willing to violate my own security policies.
And from a social media perspective, the things that they should care about is the stuff that is publicly accessible. I mean, that's the stuff that's more vulnerable, more visible, more embarrassing.
Right.
Exactly. And there's a good example of that with that police officer in New Orleans who was recently terminated for his comments about the Trayvon Martin case.
Yeah.
He did that publicly, not privately, and that was the cause of concern.
And to add on to what Ada was saying, I mean, I've had some job interviews. I interviewed once a long time ago at a medical lab, and one of the things that they were doing is they were looking at your driver's record. They asked for your driver's record and a couple of other things. And I asked them why they were doing that. I said, well, you drive to and from work, and you could hold us responsible if you had a car accident. I said, that's ridiculous. Every human being has to drive to and from work. It's you can't make an exception for that. And I was one of the first people that ever fought it in the interview. And of course, obviously, I didn't pass the interview or get the job. But it's amazing what they, not just for job requirements and job hiring, but even during the interview process, what they will demand to do the background checks. And there was one place I went where I asked them, how long will this ability to check my background be open? Because you don't want it to be open-ended forever. You want it to have a time limit, like 90 days, 6 months, something like that. you'd be amazed how many of them do not have a time limit and will not commit to one.
And I'll tell you, I'm sorry. I'll tell you that from our perspective, our organization, right? We have a profile or a document from our legal team that describes, if you're going to associate yourself on a social media network with the organization, you are representing the organization. So, I'm very cognizant of that in any of the social media things that I do, that, nothing I shall say is not already public knowledge about my organization.
Yeah, and they do. It's not just employers. I've done charity work, volunteer work, and if anything at all in any manner today involves children, you go through a background check.
Yes, yeah, I have that same
fingerprint background check.
Give kids the world.
I don't know if you guys know this or heard this, but it's actually in the Facebook Terms of Service that you're not allowed to share your password.
Yes, it's in a lot of Internet services, terms of services, by the way, too.
I wonder. I'll have to go read Google Pluses and see what they say.
And by the way, this is a public service announcement. I don't like to represent my company, but when I'm using my freedom of speech, but I will say everybody here should have two-factor authentication installed on their Google account. That way, even if you gave out your password, they still wouldn't be able to get in your account because they need physical possession of your device to get in.
I do have that. I missed my smart card two-factor authentication, but it's a nice secondary way to do it.
Right. Well, there's lots of layers of backup. If heaven forbid you should destroy or lose your phone, you can have it call your home phone to give you a code, and there's a printed backup and whatnot. Yeah, you should have it. My mother and my father use two-factor authentication. They are the least tech-savvy people in the world, and if they can use it, anybody can use it. Do you have a phone? If you have a phone, you qualify for two-factor. You don't need a fancy smartphone or anything. It works for anything.
Yep.
That's what to it.
Yep. I agree. Thank you. And to circle this back to Pinterest for a second, I found the quote that I was looking for in their new terms of service. Mm-hmm. It says that the new terms of service prohibit content that creates a risk of harm, loss, physical or mental injury, emotional distress, death, disability, or disfigurement, physical or mental illness to yourself or any other person or an animal. So that's an open door for lots of creative lawsuits.
And I've seen people already talking about that. It's like, are they going to ban people, talking about staying skinny?
Yeah, and there was a news story today that Pinterest has banned thinspo boards.
That's the one, yes.
Yeah, and I actually had never heard of them until this article came up. I guess it's just a blogging platform with a lot of freedom in it for those very reasons.
They don't
so
have
at least they're acting. I mean, they're backing up their words with actions. That's not bad. So we talked about the Facebook thing.
Did you guys hear about the new Google account activity feature?
I did see that. Yes, I didn't actually go to it, but I did see it.
Yeah, I signed up for it today and got the first update. It's actually pretty slick. It's at google.com/settings/activity, and it'll show you, among other things, the locations. For me, it just shows United States. I don't know how granular it gets. The browsers and platforms that you have signed in on, the number of alternate email addresses, application-specific passwords, connected sites, emails sent, and to the number of contacts, emails received, most contacted, number of YouTube's videos uploaded, web history, all sorts of interesting stuff.
What's the rest of that URL?
/settings/activity.
I just signed up for it.
It's pretty slick.
It doesn't include Hangout activity, though, does it?
Probably not yet. I'll double check that. But.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing that I've been hurting is I cannot tell when you do it on air. Can't tell how many people are watching it either before or after the fact. Yeah.
It's not really designed to be a substitute for Google Analytics. It's more of a I probably shouldn't say privacy feature, but for example, in a previous example, you just said United States. if you're showing other countries on there, you would probably go, uh-oh, somebody else has in Japan or whatever has my password because I'm seeing that I'm apparently using my account from Japan. It gives people an idea of how much they're using all of our services and all this and across the board. And by the way, that product is possible due to our consolidation of all our privacy policies. If we didn't do that, that product wouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I like the idea though. It's like it's almost like individual server logs in a way for your own account. So you can, and you look in there and say, wow, someone else is accessing my account that I never knew about before. It's nice to have the ability to take a peek into that.
Well, it's kind of complements the Google dashboard in a way. Have you ever used that product?
Yeah,
A couple of times.
I have.
Yeah, it's basically a complement to that. So it basically says, yeah, we have the data, we want to be very open with you, and here's exactly how much of you is in Google and where it is and when and what you can do about it. Delete it, take it out, import it, export it, et cetera, et cetera.
Do we have any Google Wallet users here?
Well, I've tried, but unfortunately my Nexus S on T-Mobile is not supported.
So,
Oh, that's what I have.
so I have a Japanese version of a Galaxy Nexus, and unfortunately, it's not just having a Galaxy Nexus as a prerequisite; it's having it for the right country and the right carrier. So I'm out of luck too. Because I'm a Google employee, I can override the normal things, and I can install a wallet onto my phone from an internal build. But even if I do that, it won't let me do it. It said, sorry, you're the wrong carrier, wrong locale, wrong country.
Yeah, I won't say that I found a way to get the Google Wallet app on my phone, but as soon as it detected it was on T-Mobile, it wouldn't work. Now, interesting, is the Galaxy Nexus you have GSM?
It's a 3G device. It goes up to HSPD plus, PDA plus. Yeah.
I want one.
Also, the phones in Asia are better than ours, and you'd want one.
Well, I just I love my Galaxy Nexus S. I'm sorry, my Nexus S, but I always want the latest and greatest.
Yeah. Well, I've always wanted a Nexus phone. I don't have one.
I hate to badmouth it, but because I get all these gadgets for free. I had a Galaxy Nexus S, and I didn't like it, to tell you the truth. I like my Galaxy Nexus, the original one, much, much better.
Nexus 1?
Yes.
And why? What was the reason?
Well, I'm a very big Maps user, and we had a very, very bad bug in Google Maps for the longest time that interacted with the graphics chip on that chip. And there's certain 3D operations you could do, which would literally, because it was a graphics 3D acceleration problem, would hang the entire phone because it lock up the GPU and all that, and that was a showstopper for me. And and I just lost my patience with it, and I went back to the Nexus 1 because I have a philosophy. I have lots of phones internally at work, and I'll run like developer builds, and I'll run the latest and greatest stuff that the regular consumers can't get, but I like to keep it real with my main phone that I actually use, because I said, no, in order to actually understand the users, I have to feel their pain. So generally on my personal phone, I run nothing but stock. So running on stock, I just couldn't tolerate it, and I went back to my previous version of stock. Whereas the Galaxy Nexus, I will say, is I'm running stock on it, and it's the first freebie phone I've been had in a long time that I've deemed SIM-worthy. I actually went out and I got a contract for a SIM and put in it and paying for that with my own money.
Ah.
Yeah. See, we get all these freebies, but so I have no perspective of people saying, "Oh yeah, I got to wait till my 2-year contract goes away and then I'll upgrade to the next Nexus." And I was like, "What the heck is wrong with these people? They don't give these phones for free from their employer." I guess not. But nevertheless, the SIM is not free, and I actually spent my own money to get the SIM because
we can go to the theme park anytime we want.
Yes, it's a very nice perk, by the way.
We can't even get a GSM HSPDA Plus Galaxy Nexus in the States, though. I mean, unless you buy it.
And you're supposed to he's supposed to win some things. And the store manager, the first thing that he did was impose a restriction on it. Would say, no, you have to have the weather from 2 different states displayed on your phone.
But
And
he did. He did. The Galaxy Nexus guy did have it. Yeah. Go on. Sorry.
And the contest was very heavily favored toward Microsoft, the way it was set up. But he set up his Nexus to do the same thing that the Microsoft phone was basically, you kept the locking out of the way, and you put it right there on the home screen, so it was right there. And he beat it. And it became such a publicly visible thing, and the guy was really good about it. He just said, well, I want a rematch and things. I mean, he didn't complain or anything like that, but it got very visible and was tweeted all over the place that Microsoft came back at him, and to make things right, he will now receive a free laptop and smartphone. Of course, it's a Microsoft smartphone. But
Good for Microsoft. I'm glad they did the right thing.
But they offered it up on, he's selling it on eBay, I believe, on auction, and all the proceeds are going to charity.
See, I love it when they do that, and he's not the first person I've seen do that. I saw a lot of open source community people do things like that, where they would win their case, win their thing, and then they would put the thing up for auction for charity. I think that's really cool of him to do that. Is he putting up the laptop and the phone, both things?
Yes.
Okay.
The phone is a Windows WP7 phone?
Yes, and I think his comment was, I'm sorry, it's Windows.
Yeah, I would say too. But I have a friend at work who he's bought. I don't know if he has it yet, but he's bought the brand new Windows phone, and he's really excited to get it. And he's not brand loyal. He's had iPhones. I think he's had Android, and he's looking forward to doing this phone now.
It's a nice UI. From speaking from the perspective of an end user, and ignoring the whole thing about how many apps a phone has or the coverage or anything like that, the UI itself is visually pleasing.
And everybody's moving in the direction that your phone apps your apps on your phone are going to be installed. They're going to change the desktop OSs to install all the apps the same way. And of course, Apple already did that, so I guess that's the way the apps are going to. No more update service. It's just going to be the app program.
Well, the only thing I have to say on this is both, the whole contest from the beginning was kind of silly in that in a real-life phone, a phone would never, ever be set up that way. So Microsoft the store rigged the tests.
Yeah.
They'd win, but they made their phone in an artificial way so that they always win. It's like a dragster race where you win in a split second. It's like, how fast can you press a power button? What they didn't count on was that another person decided to challenge them by rigging their Android phone the same way, so that all they had to do was press a power button to come on, and then it's basically a matter of who can press one button and swipe faster. And apparently there is one extra step in the minimum swipe process. But again, going back to the public service announcement I did on the two-factor nut, on your phone too, you should properly password and PIN protect it. You should never deal with these people and have no protection on your phone, because especially, on these smartphones, if you get into them, it's almost the same as giving your employer your password.
That brings me back to a question I wanted to ask about the Google Wallet, and I've never played with it, so I don't know. Other than unlocking your phone, what other protection do you have that prevents somebody from paying, getting your phone and paying for things with it?
So we'll ignore all the cracking scenarios, but it's a near-field device. And I'm from Japan, and we've actually had this technology for 10 years. And it's been on the phones even prior to smartphones. And our technology, it's called Verika, and it's called Asaifu Keitai in Japanese, which means cell phone wallet. And basically how their version of NFC works is that it's a very, very secure transaction between the phone and the device, and security is based on the same premise as a wallet, in that you got to get within a maximum of 9 centimeters, but ideally for it to work 90% of the time, within 4 centimeters of the phone in order for it to do a transaction. However, if you're paranoid about skimming and all that, you can set it so that you need a PIN in addition to the physical contact in order to get through. Now, in reality, nobody does that. They put their phone in a place where it's not vulnerable to skimming, and that if, heaven forbid, you are skimmed or your phone is stolen, generally the NFC works so that you can't like empty out a whole bank account. You normally transfer a percentage of money and you load it onto your phone, and let's say a maximum of like the equivalent of $100. If your phone is stolen, you're out $100. But it's not like they can then use that phone to completely empty out your account.
Okay, and in my case, I would probably be one of the guys that would put a pin on it because
Right.
you know I go back to that something you have and something you know.
Yes, that's standard security.
Yep.
And I
But
didn't trust. And the reason I brought it up is, for example, on my iPhone, I know they don't have it yet, but I read a company today that's put out a product that makes it very easy for law enforcement or governments to crack a phone, which means somebody else will be able to do it too.
We read all the same news. Yeah, but it said that only based on if you're using a PIN or a screensaver. If you start going with the full-blown password system, they are sometimes successful, sometimes not, and it takes them a lot longer, sometimes longer than they care about.
Well, what I was thinking was like on my iPhone, all you really have is a 4-digit PIN, which is not much.
Yeah.
So
On my Android, I got a password on mine.
On an iPhone?
On my Android, I have a password.
Oh, okay. Yeah, iPhones don't go there. They've only got a 4-digit PIN to unlock that.
No,
And-
there's another setting for iPhones.
Are there?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, then I've missed that then.
If you go to passcode lock in settings, disable. I think it's disable simple passcode.
Okay, I'll take a look at that because that was my fear is that if somebody could not without that much difficulty get into your iPhone, and then if you didn't have any other protection on the wallet, I was looking for another roadblock or another hurdle for them to jump.
Yeah, there's even additional protection on the, I'm going to get my terminology right, the Play Market now, where you can set a PIN individually on that. And I have, for example, I've done it on my daughter's phone. So she has her own password to get into the phone, but if she decides to go like hog wild in the market and download every Pokemon app in existence at $4.99 a pop, she's going to need a PIN that only I know. Well, she'll probably figure out eventually, but at least it'll buy me some time.
Well, there's only 9,999 combinations, right?
Yes, yeah. I should check to see if there's a lockout on that after too many failed attempts.
And the odds are it's not some weird one either. It's gonna be semi-guessing. So, and William, you got the brand new iPad, right?
Yes, I do.
And there's a news story about your brand new iPad will never fully charge.
Yes, but that's by design.
Yes.
Excuse me, Keith. The marketing person would like you to know that the name of the product is not brand new iPad. It's just new iPad.
New iPad, yeah. A lot of people have been calling it the 2012 iPad because I don't know. I think it's going to have a symbol, just like Prince did. But yeah, this became a big story for some reason. Somebody.
And I just didn't get why it was such a big story.
Well, somebody was clever. Well, first of all, it was nice that somebody was. I love the fact that our communities, our tech communities, are so large that sooner or later somebody somewhere in the world will care enough to run IP filter chains or measure the voltage levels of a device and figure out what's really going on instead of trusting people. And he found out that even though it was displaying 100% charge, that the iPads were not fully charging. They actually have logic in them, which is good logic. I wish most of the stuff I had did this because I have batteries die all the time. Mm-hmm. It gets near charge, and then it runs for a while, and the battery goes down to a certain point and then charges again. So the battery is constantly in flux, and it doesn't develop memory and other things.
Exactly. It's good.
It's always been in iOS, too, apparently.
It has, and it's not so much that I mind that somebody is checking into these things because, that's what hackers like to do. They dig into stuff just to see what's going on. What bothers me is that editors aren't looking at this story and saying, that's really not worth publishing.
Yeah, but that's not new. That's always been true.
Yeah.
So we're down to like the last 5 or 10 minutes here. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring to the table?
I was just thinking about the next possible scandal when I look into the antenna bar algorithm, which displays the antenna bars, because, yeah, there's some wiggle room in that algorithm as well.
Well, my favorite thing about the antenna gate, as I heard it called once, was it wasn't so much that you lose signal when you hold the phone a certain way. It's Apple arguing with the people that you're holding it wrong, even though they're following the very instructions they published in the first place. and so it was that was the whole debacle, the denial and the acceptance, and then the fix. But it made that.
Part of me understands that from Apple's perspective, and they're like, oh God, is this what you're whining about now? But there's always something.
Yeah, people are very creative about what they want to whine about, and it's speaking as a software developer working in one company, it's very difficult, especially when you've been eating your own food for a while, to
accept it.
To accept what somebody else is going through, or to use it the way that somebody else might have.
Exactly, because and it comes back to Ado's comment about using the stock version to feel their pain, because you could be sitting there and saying, I designed it this way, I know how it works, just do this, and they're saying, why? They see things in a very different way than you designed. So
do you think, and I'm going to throw this one at Rick too, do you think that what used to be called Mac OS X, which is now just OS X, is ever going to be replaced by iOS?
I doubt it. I mean, I think that you're going to see more convergence between the two. I'll tell you, as I showed you guys once, I have a Zag keyboard for my iPad, and I find that because you touch the screen to move between icons and things like that, I have Lion on my MacBook, and I'll go to the App Center or whatever they call the launch pad, and I'll go and reach up to touch the screen and go, whoa, that doesn't work here. So I don't know. I think that the hardware is going to have to catch up a little bit too, because they don't have a touch screen on this particular device.
Get a Wacom tablet.
I think more than than the iOS, that this is a generic UX question, and I think as touchscreens become more and more prevalent, and there's a convergence now where touchscreens aren't just for smartphones anymore. They're gradually, they're tablets, and pretty soon people are predicting they're going to be on regular computers. It's affecting UX design in that when people are making a website, even or not, they're thinking, okay, I can't put any type of widget anywhere that can't be controlled with a finger, which means there's a lot more white space, hint, hint, and there's, all controls are much bigger than they used to be. And that's not just because that's the trend of the day. I think that's a UX people responding to the fact that more and more people are interacting with all sorts of UX things with a touchscreen.
It's this thing, because it's a lot bigger to deal with than a mouse pointer.
Now, if they could only remember to allow the fonts to get bigger too, so that people can read it when they're over 30 years old, that would be
good. You and I have that same problem.
There we go.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. That's an hour.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming. And we covered a lot of ground. We covered a good 8 news stories here, plus I'll give some insight into Google and a couple of other things. I really appreciate all that.
By the way, these are my personal opinions. I do not represent my employer.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's across the board here, and I just do want to thank you for my new hat.
You look smashing. You look just like Jack Sparrow.
It doesn't clash with your shirt.
Thank you very much, guys, and we'll see everybody next week.
All right. Take care, everyone.